Hi, I'm Rob Smith. I run a YouTube channel called RobsmithDev, and I've brought a whole load of collection of my crazy gadgets to the Retro Collective today as part of their Pump House opening. So this is a whack-a-mole style game that I've created. It's running off the Amiga you see behind you and not the one I brought because that one blew up earlier on. They're very simple. It pops the discs out and you have to put them back in as quick as possible. It features a track by Hoffman just to really make you anxious and get you playing as fast as possible. So one of the challenges that when I made this was I wanted sometimes the discs to just pop up a little bit and sometimes I wanted them to literally fly out across the room. And that was the hardest thing to do, and this is showing some of the mechanism inside. So we've got a lock here, which is a bit like the ones you see on lockers that can fire things out. There's a control here, which you can just about see, which moves up and down, which changes the tension on this bit above. So sometimes they come up and sometimes they go down to give the different strength. And there's other buttons like an eject button here and a light up here and things like that. And there's 5 of those in here with a whole load of electronics talking over a serial cable to the Amiga. And the Amiga's running a piece of software written in Amos that has the game on it. The entire thing, as you can see apart from the screen, obviously is 3D printed. The original design for this didn't look like this because you can see there's a sort of groove at the bottom here. That's because the printer got stuck halfway and the nozzle clogged, so I changed the design slightly. But everything only just fits snugly inside this, and down the back here, there is all the electronics that run this, and there's quite a lot of different things in there, from motor drivers to MOSFETs and things like that. And this is powered by 3 different Arduinos that are running all this just to give the amount of I/O that's required to make all of this run. So the very first version of this, people really enjoyed it, lots of laughing, more from the spectators than the people actually playing it, who looked quite stressed. The original version, the discs went in a little bit further and people came away with sore fingers, which was quite funny. So this one's a little bit easier and you can actually whack it with your hand, but it's a lot of fun. And yeah, people seem to enjoy it, and especially watching people just get a little bit crazy and panicked by it. I've always been a fan of the Alien franchise, specifically the Aliens film, the second one, because they had this motion tracker that they used throughout the film. I always thought it was a really iconic piece, especially the fact that it made everybody feel really nervous, and the sounds that it generated really put people on edge, and I think it was a little bit underrated in the films. So I decided that I wanted to create my own, and for about 10 years I've been thinking about how to do this. And one of the challenges was actually how you could really make it sense if people were there. And there are quite a few radar modules off the shelf. But in the end, I ended up using one that didn't give you any information at all other than the raw data. So you had to process it all yourself on a Raspberry Pi. And that's what's inside this. And this crazy looking thing has a little screen here, which follows me as I move the device round. It actually tracks where you're facing. And if I pull the trigger, it starts doing everything it should, including making all the iconic sounds, which aren't sound samples, they're actually synthesized in real time. Yeah, picks up
It's detecting a lot.
There's a lot of me. There we go, it's seeing Neil about 1.7 meters away, sounds about right. There's the alien running away now. Uh-oh, let's track him, he's tracking. This project was very popular, so I decided to make a guide showing everybody else how to make them completely, and I'm not charging for any of that, and as a result I've now got 2 of them, and they both do what they're supposed to do, making the clicking noises. This project has also been featured in the Raspberry Pi magazine as well, over 4 pages, which I was really excited about. Oh, the noise was doing it was it. It's coming right for me.
In many ways, creating PCBs is like a beautiful dance. And like all great dances, this one is performed by a middle-aged bald man. With enough practice, maybe you could learn the steps yourself, or you could hire the experts, just like hiring PCBWay. They handle the real dance of PCB design and manufacture, CNC milling, 3D printing, and a whole host of genuinely useful services for your projects. And right now you can save up to 50% off with their Christmas promotions, discounts, and vouchers. So stop tripping over your own feet and dance your way to PCBWay.com now, where you can see your designs effortlessly come to life.
What I've got running here is the Mr. Multisystem 1. It's got the Mr. FPGA system inside it. This is the Mini-MIG core running the wonderful Pattern Syndicate. But this is all about showing the Mr. Floppy project that I've been working on for quite a few years now. We can see 2 floppy drives here. This core will actually run the floppy disks in real time, just like they were designed to be used back in the day, so that even copy-protected games will load perfectly. They even sound the same. So what's special about this version of the core is I have now done some updates to it, so it supports the IPF and SCP formats, meaning that this for the first time will actually allow you to run copy-protected games, original ones, not cracked ones, on the Mini-MIG core. Hey, have you got a spare 600? I got what? A spare 600. Some of you might have seen this before. This is my rather eccentric MacGyver, I don't know, Wallace and Gromit disk cleaning machine, and it started off as a bit of a joke of maybe I could think of a way of cleaning disks. And then I thought, car wash. That would be really, really funny. So I designed a contraption that you can see here that would take a disk, it would move it along into some areas with some buds that would spin around and clean the disk, and then when it had finished, it decided it was also going to then dry it. And I thought, well, that's just a bit boring if I'm going to take that and show people. So it makes sound as well. It has a soundtrack which includes a dance mix of Car Wash. During the drying stage, it also plays Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero, and then it also has various other sound effects going out through it as well. And the first time I used it, I wasn't sure how robust this was going to be, so I even included a spare part, which I have never used once. And I've actually tested this, and strangely enough, it really does actually clean disks. Although this one's been in here so long, you can actually see through it now. When it starts, initially, it pumps up isopropanol alcohol into here, which then drops down onto these things, which will pick it up and absorb it. And because I leave it on all day, the whole desk ends up soaked with isopropanol. One of the funny memories I've got of this is last year I took it to the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge, and it was running quite nicely. It was sitting actually next to Reese from Control-Alt-Reese, and he'd already been plagued by it once before. And it was playing its loud music throughout the day, and about lunchtime I noticed it gone really, really quiet, and I was wondering what had gone on. I thought Reese might have sabotaged it, but no. I went over to it and it was running it through its sequence, but it wasn't making any sound. So I opened it up and had a look inside. Couldn't see anything wrong, pressed the start button and smoke bellowed out of the amplifier. To which point everybody else in the museum was running around trying to work out which computer had just broken, and it was just chaos everywhere. It was really, really funny. Anyway, in the end, I ended up ripping out that amplifier and gave it to Reese as a little gesture. What you can see here are the Amiga floating boing balls that I've created. The first one that you can see here just spins perfectly normally, and I wasn't very happy with the fact that it spins perfectly upright. So I created the new one here, which spins on a slight angle. But there's more to it than this, because I wanted it to actually spin off axis, which is something you can't normally do. This version does. The reason I wanted it to spin off axis is because the original boing ball demo, the ball is actually at a slight angle, and I just wanted it to be that little bit more authentic than the original. And I built this to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Amiga. And the way it works is if I open this one up, okay, inside we can see that there's some sneaky electronics going on. So we've got a magnet here which is receiving power from the base, and then we've got 4 LEDs lighting it up. But you'll also see there's a motor mounted at a funny angle. So when this floats, the globe can rotate around the angle, like so. So it will sit that way up and spin. People often ask me why I create these things, and sometimes it's just out of fascination to see if it's possible, and sometimes because it's fun, and sometimes because I have a crazy idea and know it will make people smile. What we've got here is my version 2 disk backup station. The original version was twice as wide and featured 3 floppy disks, 3 floppy drives, along with 3 USB ports. And the whole thing's totally automated, meaning you can just touch through the system, you can put a floppy disk in, and it will just automate the whole backup process completely for you. I built this originally to take along to like Amiga events and things like that to help people who had got discs and had no way of recovering them. Recently I decided that it was just taking up far too much space, so I shrunk it down into this smaller, neater design and added some big speakers on the sound so it could make as much noise as possible. This supports 3 different formats now. It supports Amiga discs in ADF format, it will support Atari ST and PC discs in the IMG format, and if it doesn't recognise the format, it automatically switches to a low-level flux SCP, which means it will back up anything, but also that means it will back up copy-protected discs as well. So this version has a control panel on the back because the original one was wired up to my PC, and this is much more convenient. It allows me to do things like trigger the disk cleaning sequence, because obviously you're going to need to clean disks because these disks are worn out. It also allows me to trigger some of the other actions that are built into this. So there's occasionally a little glitch that can happen, which today happens to have a certain retro collective theme. But also, sometimes when you're backing up the disk, a certain character pops up and warns you maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And here's from the "Don't copy that floppy" advert that you used to see back in the day. There are various other things that I've been building over the years. We've got a seagull, which has a whole story in itself. These are some of the things that these two here you would never have seen before, because this was something I created years ago as one of my first Arduino experiments. It's a little thermal camera, very, very simple, using a really old sensor, and this was printed with a really, really early 3D printer, which is why it looks quite terrible. Designed to look like a Star Trek tricorder. This was a Tetris game that I made at university, and I think the battery's almost worn out because you can't really see anything on it now. Yep, really, really dim. I hand soldered every single one of those LEDs into the crazy 3 levels of PCB that are sitting behind it, and it's powered by a tiny little microcontroller which predates the Arduino microcontrollers. And these are sorts of things is where I started my electronics journey. This crazy little device here is something I featured on my channel. It's a real-time repitch device, so you can feed audio in and out, and you can turn this little control and it will repitch the audio. But then I thought, oh, it'd be a bit of fun, so if you flick the little switch on the side and put a microphone into it instead, it tries to auto-tune your voice to the nearest note.
It's so sad that you're leaving. It takes time to believe it.
It kind of works reasonably well, and at some point I think I will make a better version that's probably a bit higher quality. And you may also have seen that I run a website called Retro Directory, which has now been running for about 3 years. It's a directory that can show you the location of museums and clubs and bars, places like that to go for, find your local repair place. And it's all completely free to have a look at, shows you a map, gives you an idea of everything that's around you, what events are coming up, and where you can, and how you can get tickets for them and all that kind of thing. Really, really handy resource, totally free to use, and if you're not on there, then it's also free to list. So if you've enjoyed seeing all of these things and you want to see things more like this seagull, which you'll find fun, you can find all that on my YouTube channel at RobsmithDev.
Thank you for watching, everyone, and a special thank you to Rob for attending this event and sharing all of his crazy inventions with us. Do take a moment to subscribe to his channel, where you can take a deep dive into any one of those projects and a whole lot more, as well as subscribing to this channel, and visit retrocollective.co.uk if you'd like to attend future events like this one. See you next time.